Hi, and welcome to the Low No Drinker podcast, the companion podcast to Low No Drinker magazine, the #1 UK magazine for the sober curious drinker. This podcast is all about bringing you the people behind the brands who are leading the low and no alcohol revolution. In it, I'll be interviewing brand founders and industry pioneers who are all on a mission to help you live a life less intoxicated, plus a few sprinklings of my own thoughts and insights as the founder and editor of the magazine. So, let's get started with this week's guest. Hi. So today I am talking with the lovely Kieran from Lecap. So let me show you a bottle of their 5% wines. And I wanted to get to know a little bit more about the brand because I must admit I don't know very much about it. So a little bit about the story behind the brand, the people behind the brand, which is the most important element. And just introduce you to some of the Low No Drinker readers and watchers here in the UK. So thank you very much for joining me, Kieran. How are you doing today?
Good. Pleasure to talk about Lecap, actually. So thank you so much for having me on.
It's my absolute pleasure. So I know you must be very busy, so I appreciate you taking the time out. Start where you feel comfortable. Take me back as far as you'd like. Tell me a little about your history and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I suppose I've always been in hospitality. I love hospitality. I love nothing more than going into a busy bar or restaurant and the atmosphere and the feeling that gives you. So I've always been a huge fan. I was brought up in the Cotswolds, so I was working behind a bar at like 14 or 15, obviously when there was no sort of rules, regulations in the Cotswolds. So I was fortunate enough to get kind of first hand on, working with customers at quite a young age. And from there, I've always been super interested in hospitality. I did a degree in masters in something not hospitality based and went into a grad scheme which lasted 6 months. And I was just like, couldn't sit still, couldn't get the work done, just wasn't overly interested in the dry kind of topic I was going into. So quite quickly got out of that, and I met an investor in a small business called Beetlejuice Events, which was a cocktail camper van business. So they got VW camper vans, cut them out, turned them into bars, and took them to festivals. So that was like my proper introduction, I guess, to learning how to run a bar business. I was their first franchisee. We franchised it all across the UK, and we built a really cool company. Really great brand. They're still going really strong, and I really enjoyed every part of it. And that kind of led me then into hospitality, and then from there into the drink side. So more recently, I've done 6 years at a spirits brand called Lanique. It's a rose petal spirit, 39% ABV liqueur. So super interesting that it's kind of full strength, but a liqueur. And that was really good fun for the last 6 years. But I definitely felt the impact of working with a very strong spirit for 6 years and being in cocktail bars, entertaining and networking. And so I was quite delighted to take an opportunity to get more into the lower ABV, moderation, healthy aspect of drinking. And that's what really led me to Lecap.
Okay, all right, fantastic. And don't feel too much pressure to answer this. This is a Low No Drinker is not a teetotal publication, so
Yeah.
feel free to answer honestly. What's your current relationship like with alcohol? Do you still consume, imbibe? Are you cutting down, moderate? What would you say?
I'm definitely cutting down. I'm 33, and I feel like you get to a certain age and it really catches up with you. Like my 25-year-old brother's doing exactly what he should be doing and gets away with it. I do not. And actually, I just really want to live life to the full. I really want to experience everything. And when you have that horrible hangover and you just kind of write a day off, I just don't want to do that anymore. So Le Cap is very much being created for myself, quite selfishly. Like I really love wine. All of the founders of Le Cap love wine. We love the feeling of it and the social experience, but we really don't love the next day. So it's been made with a real purpose and drive behind it. So yeah, for myself, I'm very careful of what I drink now. I have been for quite a while, but it's a lot easier when I'm fully into this side of the industry, which is really exciting. The low and no section is amazing. It's creative, it's innovating, and it's creating a whole new way to socialize, where you still socialize and still have a great time, but
Yeah.
ultimately you're not consuming as much alcohol, which is all around better for you. So no, quite a strong advocate of this.
I know what you mean as well. I mean, I always suffered from bad hangovers. But definitely as I got older, they got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah,
And it got to the point where it was like, this is just 3 days. I've just gone. I just can't do anything.
I know. Yeah, it's that cloud. You know, so many of my friends, I luckily don't suffer from this, but a lot of my friends have the anxiety the next
Hmm.
day or two, and it's really crippling actually. And I think a lot of people think, well, I just can't drink then. There's nothing, you know, I'll just drink water at a bar or whatever. But what's going on in this sector, you will know far better than me. It's just amazing. And you really don't have to miss out. And that's the joy of what we are all trying to do together, is not take away from people's social experience, but add to it in just a different way.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're right, the innovation and what's coming out of the market and what people are calling for as well is changing completely. So I'm
Yeah.
going to definitely want to find out a bit more about your team. So you mentioned the founders. So who is it that's behind Lecap?
Yeah, so there's four founders, and I'm one of those. There's two brothers called Archie and Max Ward. They have, they're an investor. So the relationship, sorry, is the three other founders are kind of investor founders, whereas I'm more of like the managing director and the guy that makes the whole thing happen, I guess.
Okay.
But they're brilliant because they have so many great experiences through business and through life. So yeah, so there's Archie and Max, and then the third founder is Charlie. Charlie actually created the Incipio Group, which has, I think, 9 venues in London, really, really successful bars. He's now created Jago's House, which is is a members club, but with a family drive to it. So it's a place where there's a crash and a nursery and play areas for kids, and it's very child friendly. So it's a really smart business, really beautifully designed building. And so it's those three and myself. We came together 18 months ago to discuss this and work out whether or not it's possible actually to create a 5% ABV, lower
Hmm.
alcohol, lower calorie wine. And we went about that. And quite luckily, Archie and Max have a family owned vineyard in South Africa called Vondeling, which is where we produce Lecap. So all the pieces kind of came together. All of this experience of hospitality and how to build businesses came together. My area is obviously quite practical. How do we get the brand out there? How do we build it? How do we create a community? And how do we sell it?
Nothing major there, just how do we actually get the thing out there and get it into people's hands?
Yeah, put a bit of money into it, create a nice brand, and then hope for the best. And I'm the hope for the best bit. So, so far so good.
Okay. So when did Lecap launch then? Tell me a bit about that journey.
Yeah, so we launched in June. We spent 18 months working on the liquid. South Africa produces its wine in our kind of winter spring, which is their summer. Um, so the wine was available to us in May. It was quite a late harvest, and then yeah, we had it in June. Came over from South Africa, and then we launched.
That's exciting. That's exciting. And how's it been going since then? I appreciate that things are changing and that the people are opening up, but it's a big challenge, right? It's a big undertaking to kind of go, look, we've made this new liquid, drink it. So how's that
It's
been?
a it's a huge challenge. I think I look at the beer sector quite often with this, and beer's really done such a fantastic job because the 0% beers taste just as good. And then there's also the session beers, which are 2 to 3 to 4% ABV, and they've really got that mid mark. And then you've got the full strength 5 to 6, and then you've got the stronger stuff. So they've got a whole spectrum of different alcohols where you can enjoy beer at different alcohol levels. With the wine sector, we're not quite there. We've got 0%, and there's some beautiful brands out there with some good liquid. But the feedback I've had quite often is that that liquid isn't really resembling a wine per se. It's really delicious, drink to drink. And there's probably a few out there now that are starting to really break that and actually work out how to make it feel and taste like a wine. So when I talk to people about it, I'm quite careful to say we're not 0% or below 1.2% to be a low and no officially on a label, but we're certainly a hell of a lot lower ABV than a full strength wine, which is a positive and a negative, because it's a positive because it's new and it's different and there's nobody else doing what we're doing. It's a negative because we have to carve out a new category within the wine sector. And that's my job. That's what we want to do. We want to bring people's attention to moderate drinking, lower alcohol, lower calorie drinking, but at this 5% ABV. So it's a really interesting challenge. We've had some amazing feedback, some great on-trade listings and independents. We're talking to all of the big players, I guess, and then we're talking to really cool independent creative bars and restaurants. So it's been a really interesting journey since we launched, but we've had some brilliant feedback. So we're super delighted with that.
I think that it's a really interesting category, and I was reading an article recently, obviously with the tax changes that have come in, and there's several people postulating the theory that particularly in the wine industry you'll see a lot more people trying to create sort of that mid-range wine as a sort of reaction to what's happened. But what I like is that you guys have come out the park swinging, saying, no, this is who we are, this is what we are doing, and this is what we want to produce. Tell me, I know you're not hands-on in the factory. Are there sort of any specific challenges that the team have reported in actually making a mid-range wine? Because as you say, there are people out there making 0% and trying their best. It is a challenging task. Are there specific challenges to making that mid-range level 5% that you guys have gone for?
Huge challenges, huge, okay. Because the alcohol with wine is just so intrinsically linked to the body, the taste, the flavor. Without that, you have high residual sugars, which usually means quite a sweeter drink. You can quite often lose all of the beautiful, delicate aromas that come from the wine itself. And then you're left with something that probably tastes quite good, but doesn't really resemble wine. And so we face those challenges from day one. We've worked very closely with the winemakers in South Africa to use the latest technology and methods to create a wine with as little intervention as possible. The vineyard itself is a WWF biodiversity awarded place that has conservation for the wildlife and has a lot of things there that they really treasure and really look after to make sure the wine is as good a quality as possible, but also good for the world. So, we don't want to then go and start adding things to it to manipulate it. We want to try to create a fantastic quality wine that tastes and feels like a wine, but ultimately 5% ABV. So we went through a lot of challenges to get there and a lot of tasting sessions to get to where we are now. And even now we are still working on that liquid, and we think we've actually improved it by 10 to 15% ready for next year, the way that we make it next year. And we're constantly looking to improve. We're looking at other products for the range as well. So expect some sparkling, hopefully, in the next year. And so super challenging, but we have a great team who've been able to crack this. So we're really excited about that.
Fantastic. And you may have seen my eyes light up a little bit when you said sparkling. I know they're sweeter and not as good for you as the other ones, but I do love the sparkling. And especially as Christmas is coming, I'm on the lookout for lots of lovely light sparklings. Will that be a rosé as well, or can you not say too much?
I don't really know at the moment, to be honest. So I wish I could say. I know we're playing around with rosé and white for sparkling. At the moment, we just have the flat rosé, which is obviously fantastic, but there's a seasonality aspect to it. Our beautiful bottles, yeah. So there's a seasonality to rosé, which we all know about. I think, it starts peaking around April and probably drops off around October. So we're looking for something that takes the seasonality out of it. Sparkling is great for Christmas, it's great for New Year's, it's great for Valentine's Day, and it's great all year round. So it's definitely something we want to add to our portfolio of lower alcohol wines.
Yeah. And do you see that Lecap growing a range across the other wine types as well?
Yeah, for sure. There's so much that can be done with this. Like you said, everyone's kind of with the tax relief that you get on lower alcohol wines looking at doing similar. And actually, I really welcome that. I welcome more people into this lower space. I welcome them for the consumers, so there's more choice. I think it's great for the category to help us flesh out this whole new, sessionable wine or moderation wine. I feel like it's a real positive for everybody involved. So yeah, I think it's a really exciting time, and we'll definitely be looking at other options for adding to our portfolio, but we won't do it with haste and we won't rush it because we don't want to be that wine company. We want to be one that has real kind of authenticity to what we're doing and real love and passion behind it.
Absolutely. Here. I like the sound of that. So what's it been like then with you over here and the team in South Africa? I mean, obviously we're doing this interview remotely now, and I know that Zoom and everything is in place, but it's got to be quite, a nuanced experience trying to build and launch a company from other sides of the world. How's that been for you guys?
Yeah, it's actually been okay. One of the founders who I mentioned earlier, Max, is based out there. So he lives at the vineyard. They're building this incredible new restaurant venue space within the land at the vineyard. So we have Max there and their head of wine producing there, Matt, who are just brilliant. They work together really hard on the wine. They have done, obviously, to get this launched, and they're continuing to do so. So between us all, and between the power and the love of Zoom, although I'm not sure if I'm a big lover of it, but I love face to face. But no, it really has enabled us to work remotely and to keep in touch and keep producing what we're doing. So it hasn't been too difficult. But I'm quite looking forward, hopefully over the winter, to get out there and to get hands on and to learn a little bit more about what we're doing. But to date, it's been fine. Actually, it hasn't been too hard.
Yeah. And I bet they'll put you straight to work, right? You'll get out there, you'll be in the
I'm up
factory
for it.
fields. Yeah.
I'm ready. Socks off, squishing wine. I'm ready.
The old school way with your toes and
Old
everything.
school. Yeah, of course. You have to.
I would actually love to do that. It's something I've never done, and I don't know. Apparently, you can go to these places and still give it a good old go. I'd love to do that.
I feel like everybody would, and then I think they go out there on a really hot day and pick grapes all day, and then go and do this. And at the end of it, I think it probably isn't quite as romantic as you think it is. You're like, I just want to squish a few grapes. I don't want to actually harvest. So no, I'm sure I'll be given all of the dodgy jobs which I deserve and usually get anyway. So it's cool.
I wanted to circle back to the actual bottles themselves because I've noticed. So you've got the Lecap and the Lecap, and then you've got different colours for your labels. And so I may be making myself look silly here. I had a good old read around on the labels. And I couldn't get the significance of the different colours. Is it just that they look like lovely colours?
It's just that they look like lovely colours. I mean, it's a really interesting one. We worked with Other Way to do our branding. They are I think the best branding agency. They did Lucky Saint, so and a hell of a lot of other brands. They've got real pedigree. They've got a fantastic owner in Jono, and yeah, they're fantastic. And one of the things early days I wanted to do was do 4 different colorways for the labels for the same SKU for the same product. So with my experience in the drinks industry, I was a bit confused by it, and I was worried that people would be confused. But actually, it's been really fun. I think it's another great bit of marketing and branding from them that you don't know which color you're going to get if you buy online. So it's quite fun. In the retailers, it looks really great on the shelf, having 4 colors. It kind of adds a bit of impact to it and gives you a reason to pick up a bottle. So it's really cool. And I'm really happy with the logo and the branding because I think perhaps the wine sector in particular is quite traditional, and everything we're doing is not traditional. And so that's really reflected in these big, bright Pantones that we've used, the beautiful illustration on the front, the bold Lecap, and then the more handwritten 5% ABV on there. So we're really happy with the branding, and we've had some great feedback from people that we've sent it out to. We sent it to quite a few influencers to help us build the brand, which is an essential part, I guess, of any brand launching, and it's been really well received. And I think it's a kind of bottle that you would be quite proud to take to a house party or to a picnic in the park or gift to somebody. So we're really happy with that.
Fantastic. Oh, and I'm glad that I got it as well then,
You
because
did.
I was like, because you never know, do you? And you think maybe there's like a secret code or something that I'm not aware of. I thought I might find out from you. And I like as well that on the, just so that people can see there, so you've got 5% on the top as well, so that anytime anyone's looking at it, there's no doubt as to what it is that they're going to be getting. So I like that.
Yeah,
Tell
absolutely.
me a bit about the flavor profile then, so how it actually tastes and how it drinks and how it pairs with other things, perhaps with some food.
Yeah, it's delicious. Just top line, it's delicious. It really is. We've just done that thing, where you go on the street and you interview people, and we did it by saying, "Would you like to try an alcoholic wine?" And people try it, and then after it was, by the way, that's 56 calories a glass and it's 5% ABV, and the reaction was really cool. That's coming out on the social media soon. So it's got all of the flavor and the body, importantly, that you'd expect in a rosé. It's kind of those beautiful fruits that come through at the beginning. It's got this lovely acidity which balances out the sweetness. It's not a sweet wine, but it's certainly not a very, very like dry Provence style pale rosé. It's got a lot of flavor in there. It's got a lot of berries and fruit, and it's super interesting and complex. And then it's got kind of a dryness that comes through and a long finish. So it's everything that you want in a rosé. If you're looking for like a super, super dry Provence rosé with not much flavor, then probably not overly ours at the moment, although we are producing something that is quite a lot drier. But the feedback on the flavor has been remarkable, and its likeness to a full strength rosé as well, which is really important to us because we don't want to take away from the feeling that you get, which is great when you have a full strength rosé. Just 3 or 4 glasses in, you don't feel great. Whereas with us, you do. I think a bottle of Lecap is the same as 1 beer and a third of beer at 5% ABV, like a 5% lager that you're drinking in the pub. So if you've had a bottle, you've had about a pint and a third of like full strength lager. So that gives you an idea of like how much less the consumption of alcohol is, especially then shared with friends. A couple of cubes of ice in there is definitely the way I'd go with Lecap.
Yeah, and I think you definitely launched it at the great time, didn't you? I mean, let's not put too much stock on the British summertime, and we know that it's not the most reliable of seasons, but that is the perfect season for rosé, isn't it? That was always my thing. The sun is shining, a nice pink glass, and you're kind of set for the afternoon.
Yeah, where is the summer? I think we're expecting a summer soon, and hopefully that will mean that we have a really good September and October, a kind of Indian summer, which would be lovely. So yeah, it's the weather hasn't helped massively, but it has been the perfect season to launch in. Hopefully next year we'll have the wine over here a little bit earlier. We could do a little bit more in spring, but no, it's definitely a perfect sip for the summer.
Fantastic. I would like to take you back to you're talking about you've spoken to some influencers who've helped you get the word out, and then also to retailers, both the large ones and the independents. I'd really love to get a bit more of your take on the reception that you've had, because obviously I speak to 0% brands and know that the struggles that they've been having, but what's the response been like from both the big units, the big boys, and then the smaller ones, when you said, look, we've got this wine and it's something completely different. It's a rosé, it's 5%, we're not low alcohol, you can't put it in the alcohol-free section, you can't put it in the full strength section. How have they been responding to you in that respect?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start with influencers. So we work very closely with Roche Comms. They're a brilliant PR agency that I've worked with in other businesses. And we kind of created a list of people that we wanted to focus on to get a bottle in the hand, on the story, on the grid, talking about it, mix in them with a few kind of like wine influencers who review wines. as a small kind of startup business, we don't have cash to throw at like a big influencer campaign. So some of the influencers we've talked to have been kind of, very commercial, and totally appreciate and understand that. That's their business, that's their job. Others have been, and the majority I would say, have been very open to trying it and to putting it on their story and taking some lovely photos of it and sharing it with friends. And I think that's been more popular than I thought. I thought, paid for would be something we'd really battle with, but it hasn't. And I think a massive part of that is exactly what you kind of just picked up on. It's just totally different. There's so many things out there that people have tried on the low and no. Obviously, the full strength stuff is very widely available, but when it comes to a 5% sessionable moderation type drink in the wine sector, there isn't really much. So we've had real interest from that. We've had some lovely reviews from people in the know, which is always good and terrifying because they really do know about wine. So you kind of sit there a little bit like, I hope it's going to be good. And it has been great. And then from the people that want to do a little bit more on the aesthetic side, I think our brand looks lovely with their aesthetics and their lifestyle for photography and the lifestyle that they're building. I think we've worked really well with. So that's been super successful, and we're going to continue doing that. On the on-trade side, so working with bars and restaurants, it's that question of, well, whenever I talk to them, I'm very open and very quick to say we're not low and no. So if you have a low no section, which really should be below 1.2% ABV, we don't fit into that. But where we do fit really well is into a wine list. And we're actually seeing it, going into a wine list with a small description to say lower alcohol, 5% ABV, maybe the calories on there as well, because they're just so much less than a full strength wine. And I think that's where we fit really nicely. It's kind of scanning through the rosé list by the glass, looking at what you want, and seeing hopefully our Lecap at the top of the wine list as a lower alcohol option. And that's really where that's where we're seeing it work very nicely. And then the same goes for the off trade for independents. And they're very flexible. They're very creative, cool, small businesses that have these lovely wine shops where they educate customers. So that's quite an easy one because these guys are so in the know and they know exactly what to say to customers to explain and educate around our brand. We're just starting to talk to the bigger retailers, and that I can't tell you yet how it will go because it's quite early days. It's probably not something for this year, but hopefully for next year, where we see it kind of grow in a big way to the audiences that we're wanting to target. So that one I'm not sure yet. We'll find out. But I guess it's very similar to probably when the founders of the low category came about, which probably around Seedlip, and they went to places and said, create a non-alc option, and the feedback they probably got was, oh, we have great mocktails with just juice with ice and a lime. And actually they really had to innovate and create something out of nothing, and we're doing the same now in wine, albeit not as hard a challenge because they've really helped break the back of it and create a great industry, but we're trying to carve out a whole new channel. So it's going to be really interesting. I'm not sure entirely. We'll find out.
That's what makes it exciting, right? Because you're not sure. I can imagine sort of broaching those conversations with the big boys and the larger chains and stores and getting into that. It's going to be really interesting. But I think you're right. I think that the back has been broken on this and the door is now open. I'm forever seeing press releases, and I think it's Waitrose who are now working with Diageo to put in dedicated blue zones in all of their stores, which are all going to be low and no alcohol sections.
I love that. I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, to really sort of highlight it and say to people, look, it's here, come and check it out, because that's the thing at the moment. You go into the supermarket, my nearest big sort of Sainsbury's, and you go down those aisles and it's the amount that's there is just huge, and then there's like one column for the low and no. But even I've noticed that over time that column's getting a bit bigger and a bit bigger. So, they're welcoming this in, and I think we need more brands like yours, as well as the lows, as well as the no's, to bring the lows in and say, look, here's the range for people, because most people who are drinking low and no alcohol drinks are still drinking full strength drinks as well. So by showing them that it's a normal choice to pick one of those and one of those as well, I think that opens it up to people that this is just the way things are going now.
It's all about choice. It's all about offering the consumer as much good quality choice as possible. And I think it's just been an area of the drinking world which has been totally neglected. And I've never really thought about it until about 2 or 3 years ago when my best friend decided to be teetotal. And it was a real education going to bars and restaurants with her where the choice was a tonic or a Diet Coke or coffee. And it was just really dull. Even weddings are the worst. Anybody getting married, think about it. Think about people that don't want to drink full strength drinks, and please don't just offer sparkling water and coffee, because when everyone's guzzling the free wine on the table and they're not, it's rubbish. And actually, you can put in some amazing non-alcoholic aperitifs. You can do some great lower alcohol wine. You can get some 0% beers in there. And actually, it'd probably keep everybody a bit steadier at a wedding, because we all know what people get like. So I think it's quite wild, really, how much it's been neglected. But it's such a joy to see people innovating in the space. And like you just said about supermarkets, they're really picking up onto it. And at the moment, it's a bit like a challenge when you go in to find it and where is it, and having it all sat together and actually in front of you with a number of really great brands. And they don't have to be these massive giants of the drinks industry. Particularly, I quite like seeing the smaller guys getting a chance. So, but I know Waitrose is extremely good for that. I worked with them with my last company, Lanique, for 18 months, and they've got an amazing spirits buyer there who's a bit of a guy that you look to in the industry for knowledge and ideas, and they're really forward thinking. So yeah, it'd be a dream to work with somebody like them in the future with Lecap.
Well, I'm sure you will do. I think, if you guys, you come out the gate swinging, you started strong, so I can see that it's only way is up for you now. It's interesting as well, I think, what you were saying, because your background is in hospitality as well, mine as well, 24 years in bars and restaurants. And I think it's really interesting you saying going out with your friend, she's not drinking, and recognizing the lack of choice that's in bars. Because I know that when I was running bars, because I ran brasseries and cocktail bars and all sorts, when the rep came in, on the very rare occasion that someone came in and said, look, we've got an alcohol-free drink, the response wasn't great. It was my bar manager would be like, oh yeah, okay, right, well, thanks. The ops director was never like, let's make sure we push this forward. And now things are starting to take that change. But I think you're right. There is still a lot of that sort of mocktail or lime and soda or elderflower and tonic, and it's so boring, people. It's so dull.
Yeah, it really is. But I think the change is coming from the bartenders. I think the bartenders are now driving this by realizing that that life of working in a bar is really tough. And actually, if you can get some brilliant non-alcs into the bar for your customers, you also have them in for yourself. And I think there's a lot of brand advocacy coming from brilliant bartenders, which is really helping to up the game. There's also some great charities out there that look after hospitality. So Let's Talk is a really, really good one, ran by my friend Paddy and a great team who are behind that. They're doing amazing stuff about raising awareness of lower alcohol and just more healthier ways of working in what is a really high pressure, stressful, very social environment, as you'll know from your experience. So that's brilliant. And there's also the Pinnacle Guide, again, good friends of mine who are now rating bars as they do and giving kind of these stars, kind of like a Michelin star, but for bars. And they insist on really good quality choices of non-alcoholic cocktails in bars that must be well crafted and not just juice with some lime in and shaken up a bit. And I think amongst all of that, that's really helping to drive change in the industry, which is being driven also by the consumers and customers. But I think it's the awareness that it's available is actually not always there, and it's getting better for sure.
Absolutely. I think the Pinnacle Guide is a brilliant one, because I was at Imbibe which is, I'm sure you'll know it, but for those watching or listening, it's a hospitality industry drinks expo, which was basically always just an excuse to go and drink for free, right? And try as many drinks as you possibly can. But I went this year. I left sober for the first time ever. It's actually a really good event. There's loads of great stuff. And one of the talks I listened to was from the two ladies who are launching Pinnacle, and they were explaining, I think it's absolutely fabulous. So like you say, it's a Michelin starred equivalent for bars, and they give pins instead of stars. And to even qualify to be considered, they have to have at least 2 mixed non-alcoholic cocktails on their menu. And that's just to be considered, which I think is absolutely brilliant.
It's a game changer. It's really setting the tone. I was at exactly the same talk, and Cammy was on stage as well, who I know that you've interviewed before, and who I know from the industry. I was at the same talk. It was brilliant. It was super refreshing. They're looking at giving stars to the best quality bars out there that offer the best drinks, the best service, the best atmosphere. And I love that a part of that has to be a great non-alcoholic option or lower ABV option for people. And I think it's the way forward, really. So yeah, they're leaders, I guess, in our industry, and they're really driving it forward. So very cool. Check it out if you haven't checked it already online.
Yeah, definitely. I will definitely link to all of these resources in the show notes for people to go and check them out, including your friend's charity, So Let's Talk. So thank you very much for sharing that. Before I let you go, I do like to ask people to spread the love, whether you are whichever stage your relationship is at with alcohol, always sort of looking at great drinks. So you're on your way to a lovely sunny barbecue and obviously as well as the wonderful Lecap. What other low-no drinks do you think you might be taking with you? What do you enjoy if you're deciding not to drink too much on a given night?
Really good question. So in terms of spirits that are low and no, I much prefer ones that have the kind of twist or take on like an Amaro. So they're like bitter and they've got herbs and they kind of feel like something that you could really make a great spritz with or something like that. So Everleaf is definitely one I would recommend. I think what they're doing is fantastic. They've got some great people behind it. And they're really easy to find in bars, actually. They've done a brilliant job on distribution. So go to your bar and say, where's the Everleaf? That's super available online to buy a bottle and to take to the next party and show off to your friends. Show off. Make a really cool cocktail. Don't even tell them it's got no alcohol in it. Just make it and get everyone to taste it. And then tell them, oh, by the way, you're going to feel great tomorrow because it's a great little aperitif spritz that I've just made you with no alcohol. Stick some rosemary in there and get some lime in there and a cucumber and just make it look amazing. Because let's face it, everyone loves a little Instagram snap. So I'd definitely say that way. And then on the beer side, I love drinking on our beers. There's so many good ones. I'm a bit of like a brew dog guy. I always have been. I know it's like controversial because they're basically like big boys now, and their founder owner is a little bit out there, but I do love what they've done. And the Punk AS is just such a winner for me. It's probably in my fridge actually. There's usually some here. But get really creative with the beer, with the non-alc beer brands. You know, supermarkets are great for sure. But if you can access a local independent wine beer type shop, craft beer bar, go in there, chat to them, find out about what the latest non-alc beer is and give it a taste. So Let's Talk, the charity I talked to you about, they've done a great collaboration with Tiny Rebel based in South Wales. I lived there for 9 years. Tiny Rebel will also always be close to my heart. And I remember them when they were like a small craft beer bar in Cardiff, and now they're just like huge. But they've done an amazing 0.5%, and I think they've done a 2.5% Radler, which is tasty. So I'd definitely get out there and find some cool beers. If you're going to go spirits, I think there's a lot of good things going on at Everleaf. There are so many other brands though out there that are doing similar. Check them out. That's what I would do.
Great suggestions. Thank you. It's got some great stuff to go and look for there. So, Kieran, tell us, before I let you go, where can people go if they want to find out more about Lecap and more about you guys? Where do they find you?
Cool. So head to the website to buy if you would like to purchase a bottle. They're $14.99. I think if you buy a few more, you get free posting, and then if you buy like a case of it, it's 20% off and free shipping. So it's all available on there for now. Otherwise, a few local independents, as I said earlier, mainly around Clapham at the moment, are stocking. To find out a little bit more, all of like the technical information and all of the story behind it's on the website. But for a little bit more of a snapshot at our lifestyle, definitely check out our Instagram, which is Lecap Wine, at Lecap Wine.
Okay, fantastic. And the web address for orders is?
www.lecapwine.com.
Lecapwine.com. All right, fantastic. Again, I'll put all of that in the show notes for everyone so that they can just click on over and find you. I think you're doing a great thing. I think it's amazing to be giving people choice and showing people that living a life less intoxicated isn't about turning your nose up at everything and suddenly saying, right, that's it, I'm never touching booze again. It's about looking for the options that work best for you at the time. And I think that this is the kind of stuff that we need to see more of. So thank you very much. Now that we've had our chat, I'm looking forward to opening it and having a few glasses myself.
Good. Get it ice cold, bit of ice in there, your fanciest wine glass, and just kick back and hopefully really enjoy it.
Fantastic. Kieran, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So a big thank you there to Kieran Gandhi from Lecap 5% Rosé Wine. It was really interesting finding out more about the challenges that this unique brand is facing. As a low and no alcohol publication, I always say that we do feature drinks that are comparatively lower in alcohol. And I think that something like this, a 5% wine, is really opening up the market to a new category of drinks that hasn't been brought forward beforehand. It's not always about all or nothing. It's not always about being completely teetotal or being an everyday consumer. There is life in between, and there are times and there are reasons why someone might choose to still want to have the taste of alcohol but not want to consume as much. And as I was saying to Kieran, there are so many stats out there that show us that the majority of people that do consume low and no alcohol beverages also consume alcoholic beverages at the same time. The latest one is that 77% of the people who drink low and no products also drink alcoholic products once a week. So that's what I want to achieve with Low No Drinker magazine and the Low No Drinker podcast is I want to bring resources to show people that there are options for whenever and however and whyever you choose to live a life less intoxicated. So if a 5% wine sounds like something that you would like to try, then I would love to know what you think of it. As I was saying to Kieran, I think it's really important that we support these smaller brands and we help them out with constructive feedback on how their products are making us feel. So if you have tried it or if you're going to try it, then make sure to drop myself or Kieran a message either via the Instagram, either via Instagram or email or directly from the Low No Drinker magazine website. I'd love to hear what you think. And also, if there's a brand out there that you'd like me to speak to, if there's a product that you want to know more about and that you'd like to hear on the Low No Drinker podcast, then drop me a note and let me know about those too. I'll put all the other information from today's chat in the show notes or the description, wherever you're reading or watching. I've hoped you've enjoyed this week's chat and I will see you next time. Bye.